Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. Got my main man Mel from the Man Down Sports Podcast. He's gonna join us. Well, he's not gonna join us. He's joining us. He's here.
Already here.
There we go. We're gonna talk some NFL and NBA. What am I doing? Man, you making me nervous.
You ready? Now you ready for the NBA? You ready? I mean, you ready for the NFL already, man? That's what
Real
it
talk.
is.
I'm definitely ready for the NFL, but
Yeah.
for right now, we got an amazing NBA playoff season that's going on right now, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right, so let's get right to it, man. Mel, first of all, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it as always.
Of course.
Yeah, man. So let's go ahead and let's get right to it with the Eastern Conference. So yesterday, New York Knicks went down at home. You know what? That's not even fair. Let me reword that. Yesterday, the Indiana Pacers defeated the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm sure I'm an East Coast guy. I don't know about you, Mel. You an East Coast guy?
Yeah, North Carolina. Yep.
Okay, there you go. So, I spent my whole life, except for some time overseas in the military on the East Coast. So I always look at things from that perspective. And realistically, I'm sure if you've been watching sports media today and listening to talk about that Knicks Pacers series, a lot of it has been spoken about from the Knicks perspective. I guess, obviously that New York media market, New York media machine. And of course, they were a great story with all they went through. But at the same time, the Indiana Pacers were also an outstanding story. These guys were one of the best offensive teams, I believe the best offensive team in the league this year. And they started off the semifinal series against the Knicks 0-2, and they managed to come back. And then they had a record-setting performance last night to seal the series. So definitely props to the Pacers. But like I just talked about, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Knicks right now, and I got some questions for you on that. So we always hear about Tom Thibodeau from his time, obviously, as basically the defensive coordinator with the Boston Celtics in 2008, helping them win a championship, and kind of coming up in the league on Jeff Van Gundy's staff with the New York Knicks, and then being the head coach of the Chicago Bulls and having the best record in the league, and then going to Minnesota and now kind of having a rebirth as a head coach with the Knicks again. A lot of the things we hear is about how tough of a head coach he is, how much of a grinder he is, how much he really grinds on his players and all that. And so what I want to ask you, Mel, first thing I want to ask you is, how much do you think that really affected the Knicks physically in terms of their health, which ended up playing a major role in them losing this series?
I think it played a part for sure. If it played a significant role, I'm not totally sure about that. But it's very possible there was a significant role if you look at how many bodies went down, how many players they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can kind of connect when he coached the Bulls and he coached D Rose, and they gave D Rose a lot of minutes, and he logged a lot of minutes, and his play style was real grueling and stuff like that. And Tibb is a defensive coach, so he don't let you slack on that end either. So you're living it all out there on both ends of the floor. And for a player like D Rose that play and runs and jumps the way he does and torques and does all that stuff, and then plays a lot of minutes, you could kind of link that to his lower extremity injuries, especially his ACL. You can kind of link that. So when you start looking at this Knicks team, they're doing the same thing. We talk about Josh Hart, who played like 3 straight games without coming out of the game. Like I think he played like 12 straight quarters.
Yeah.
Right before he got a rid on the bench, man. So he plays his once he finds his 6 or 7 guys that he likes, he runs them down, and that's his coaching philosophy,
Mhm.
and it works for the good as well. But it always has a downside to it, and this is the downside. So yeah, I think it played a role.
Yeah, I agree with you to some extent. I don't know if it's. I'm not even going to get into the whole thing of supposedly having the better athletes today and they're so far superior. But I mean, back in the day, obviously, you had guys playing those type of grueling minutes in a much more physical league, et cetera, et cetera. And, all that comes from the Pat Riley tree, because obviously Pat Riley coached the Knicks. He was a grueling head coach. And even going back to the Showtime Lakers, the reason they were able to run like that is because Pat Riley is so adamant about conditioning and all of that and rebounding and being physical. And, because of his nature as a grinding player, a lot of people forget that Pat Riley was just he was a role player in the league on a championship team with the Lakers. And so, I guess that mentality stuck with him. But because the Lakers were so glamorous when he was coaching them, nobody thought about that. Then he comes over to the Knicks and he does that. And then Van Gundy follows him as the Knicks head coach. And of course, Van Gundy is from his tree. So same type of motto, same type of mentality. And then it goes down to Tibbs and all that. But I look at it and I say, when people are complaining about what Tibbs was doing in terms of his rotation, this playoff run, what was he really supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm really wondering. He didn't have a whole lot of options. So yeah, the rotation got short, but what was he gonna do? Like, the manpower simply wasn't there. It's crazy the amount of bodies that he lost.
Well, I mean, the rotations were short in the playoffs, and most coaches are shorting their rotations at least
That's
or
true.
at the most to 8 men,
Hmm.
right? So that's normal. But what's not normal is the fact that Tibbs shortened his rotations
Like six.
halfway through the season.
Okay. Yeah.
No, no, no,
That's
like
crazy.
halfway through the season. Like they've been logging minutes like this since the All-Star break.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
So
So he got a playoff mentality in the regular
yeah.
season.
So, but let's look at it this way though, right? If Tibbs did that because he established his guys and he wanted to play them. And obviously, the goal is to get the best playoff seeding possible. They end up with the number 2 seed in the East. And I think the number 2 seed and the number 7 seed in the East were separated by 3 or 4 games. So let's say he doesn't do it the way he does it. He doesn't have those guys playing hard and playing the minutes that they're playing. Well, maybe they end up in a bad spot and they end up with Boston in the second round instead of Indiana, which they likely would have gotten through had they had just a little more bodies. But I mean, if was a fifth, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't look at it that way. I mean, because I rather have my guys healthy than in the playoffs versus having a better seeding. I take my chances with whoever I land in the playoffs, who I'm playing against. If I got all my horses, so if you look at Tibbs and his teams,
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't been working out for him. Like he probably need to go call Greg Popovich and say, hey, look, you won several rings. What am I doing different
Yeah.
than what you did that I need to change? And go to other coaches, Steve Kerr. Hey, yeah, you're doing something different, obviously. What am I doing that's not, what can I do? Should I scale back on these minutes? So he's looking at guys, and Garrett Popovich have embraced managing
Oh,
his
damn.
guys' minutes, right? And same with Steve Kerr, man. He'll pull this guy out in the fourth quarter if they up 15, 20 points. You know what I mean? So, he valued getting them some rest somehow, some way. So you got to value that as well. And Tibbs might be a little bit too tilted to old school basketball, and completely embracing load management ain't the white either. But if he can find that happy medium,
Balance, yeah.
I think he'd be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so real quick before I go ahead and play Stephen A's thoughts on the Knicks' health and all that. One thing I thought about, you mentioned earlier the Bulls when Tibbs was the head coach of the Bulls and having Derrick Rose play a lot of minutes and whatnot. But those Bulls had the number 1 seed in the East, and realistically, they could have gone to the finals and possibly won one had they not run into the overloaded Heatles. You know what I'm saying? So like that particular team,
Correct.
I don't really hold that against Tibbs that he didn't get further with them, because I mean, we know what we got. And I think, did they go 7 against those Heatles? They went 6 or 7, but the point is,
At least six. At least 6 years. So I
Mhm.
mean, it was tough, and it was just D
Right,
Rose by himself with
right.
role players and young Jimmy Butler against
Mhm.
3 established superstars.
Right.
And they may have had. I don't know if they had Ray Allen that year, but
I don't think so, not yet.
yeah, it was a stacked squad. It was stacked squad, but but still, even if he did go to the finals and somehow pull it out,
Mhm.
um, his repeatability probably, I mean, like, because I count things, especially as far as when you're trying to put a coach or a team or a player at the elite great level, in that top 10 of all time range, though, when you're
Mhm.
trying to have that conversation,
Yeah.
getting one ring isn't enough
No.
to get there. And I don't believe that ring you got unless you can repeat it.
Yeah.
You
It's
get what I'm
funny you
saying? So
mentioned that. We're gonna talk about that
these
some
one and dones that Jokic and Giannis got. I mean, when Giannis got his one and done finals championship,
more. Mhm.
everybody catapulted him into the is he in the GOAT debate
Well, that
almost. That
I mean,
was
that was absurd, though, and I like Giannis. I'm a Giannis fan, but that was absurd. Like, come on, man.
It wasn't, sir. But they had him up there. That was debating him as one of the top power forwards of all time. And
Mhm.
then what happened as soon as he fell from grace, that conversation died out. And then it started with Jokic
Mhm.
last year. Is
And
he better than Duncan? Is he a top 3 center? Is he better than Shaq,
ridiculous.
Hakeem, and all this stuff? All because
Ridiculous.
they won and he couldn't repeat it.
Yeah.
Now guess what's going to happen? He's going to come back down to earth, right?
Mhm.
Whoever wins it this year,
Yeah.
if Edwards win it, you already heard the mumblings. Is he the next Jordan? If Luka win it, oh, you already know what it's gonna be.
Oh, man.
You get what I'm saying? So those one and dones repeated because you're getting mentioning with guys who repeated, three-peated, two-peated more than once.
Yeah.
You're getting mentioned with those guys,
Mhm.
and it's not the same thing.
Yeah. And we'll definitely get to that in a bit. But let's go ahead and I wanted to play this clip for you and let you hear what Stephen A had to say about the Knicks and their health.
Let's put this in its proper perspective. We know that Tom Thibodeau is a great defensive mind. And by the way, I don't want to hear no shade thrown on Tom Thibodeau. Who the hell else was he supposed to play? I've been hard on him about him potentially running players into the ground in the past. That is not applicable. That is not applicable to this season. Everywhere you turn, they had injuries. Look at that damn list right there. OG, Bogdanovich, now Brunson, Randall, Mitchell Robinson. I mean, stop it. Just don't forget the heart with the abdominal strain. Okay, it's a damn infirmary. I respect the hell out of Rick Carlisle as a champion. I respect the hell out of Indiana Pacers. I told y'all it was something to be worried about. Okay, but in the same breath, I also like the fact that they listen. As much as it hurts me, I know it's a better Eastern Conference Final Series because I think Boston would have swept New York because of all the injuries, okay? If the New York Knicks were fully loaded, that's a different matter entirely. Let me state this for the record. No disrespect to the Indiana Pacers. Props and congratulations to them. If the Knicks were healthy, they win this series in 5. In 5.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I agree with some of what he said. I mean, he said he wanted to pump the brakes a little bit on Tom Thibodeau as far as running players to the ground. He said, he didn't have a choice this season. I mean, I disagree with that slightly because, like I said, he was doing it in the regular season, but that's just his coaching style. But he gave him a pass for that. That's fine. And then him saying without the injuries, they're a better team than the Pacers, and then he beat them in 5. It's possible 5 or 6 for sure. I mean, but the Pacers started to play Pacer basketball, and
They sure did.
Tyrese Halliburton started to play Halliburton basketball.
Mhm.
If you remember, like you said, they had like one of the number 1 offenses early on in the as far as offensive rating,
Yep.
and they went all into the All-Star break. Tyrese Halliburton looked amazing. He
Yes,
went
he
into
did.
the All-Star break. He couldn't miss from the 3-point line in the All-Star break, and then as soon as the All-Star break was over, I think he had some type of injury, and then when he came back, he couldn't hit anything
Yeah.
from
Yeah, he
deep.
calmed down a lot. Yeah.
Right. And then ran into the playoffs. He still couldn't hit nothing. And then when they went down 0-2, maybe after they won their first game, he started hitting threes again. And
Mhm.
then the Pacers offense started to look better. And they started to look like the Pacers offense. And they got a good coach over there who won a championship with Dirk and those guys, Jay
Mhm.
Kidd, Jason
That's right.
Terry, JJ Barrera. Like, he runs a great offense. He likes running fluid and good offense and team oriented offense so much
Mhm.
that he couldn't stay with Luka, and he resigned from Dallas so he can get over there and build his own squad. right? So he runs good offense over there. Rick Carlisle does,
Yes, he does.
and we seen it.
Yep.
Well coached team, defensive team, disciplined team. You know, sometimes they advance whether the team was a better seed than them or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick side note to that. Watching Halliburton go off yesterday is really irking me. Can we call these travels, please? Can we
Oh yeah,
stop watching dudes
he
take
had some
like
bad
4
ones.
steps on that side step?
He had some bad ones. You know what? I'm at the point where I just got to stop. Well,
Stop.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to stop complaining. I'm not going to stop complaining because you never know who go hear you, right? And I think enough people complain about the physicality not being existent in the NBA anymore. And Adam Silver changed that after the All-Star break. So I appreciate him from doing that. Now, what he hasn't changed yet is their interpretation of the rule book. So they're allowing the travel for the
Yep.
sake of scoring an offense.
And the
Their
catch.
interpretation of what a moving screen is. So they're
That's a
still
bad one.
allowing people to screen with their butt cheeks
Yeah.
and
Or
poke their
sticking
butt out or move
their leg out.
on it to make
Dirty John
all
stuff.
types of stuff, man. All of that, man. They're
Yeah.
still allowing that. They're still allowing the carrying,
Mhm.
right? They're still allowing. I mean, they're allowing all that stuff for the sake of offense. And if we keep complaining, then maybe they'll stop allowing it. You
Yeah.
know, so those are the next thing to go.
Well, you know what? In fairness, though, I've been complaining about the lack of physicality for years, and I can say, in fairness, like over the last 3 seasons, you see it completely shift in the way they're calling the game in terms of physicality as soon as the playoffs start. So, I mean, better late than never. But I have been seeing that over the last few years. So
Yeah,
I give credit where credit's
but it's when it shifts in the playoffs, they still gotta they still gotta stop because we notice it. Don't have it shift from game to game based on what outcome you're trying to facilitate. You get what I'm saying? Like, hey man, I want 6 games out of this series. So the team that's more physical, we're
Right.
gonna call a more physical game. And if they go up 2-0, and I'm talking about Minnesota and Denver,
Then
if
we
they
rein
go
it
up
in.
2-0, then we'll bring it back in and start
Yeah,
giving them
yeah,
Denver, you know what I'm saying, call it a little tight because
yeah.
that's going to favor Denver, right? And then we get it all the way to a game 7 and we say, hey, look,
Go ahead. We hands
go
off.
ahead and go ahead and win. Hands off until it got in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left and Denver was down 10 and it looked like Minnesota was going to blow it out. Well, you know what would have happened if they would have went up 15 with 2 minutes left? People in Denver would have started to get up, walk out. People would have turned the TV off and it would have affected rating. So you seen them start to manipulate the game again just to avoid Denver from taking it from 10 to 15 or 10 to 20. You know what I mean? So they kept it right interesting. They got down to like 6 and stuff like, you know what I mean? I'm like, come on, man. I can see this a mile away, man. It's ridiculous.
Right. So still with the Knicks, before we move on. And again, all credit due to the Pacers and Halliburton and all that, but realistically, they're just not as interesting, right? So the question is, how good is Jalen Brunson? Like, what do we think of this dude? Obviously, we saw him just have a great playoff run. You can see by the numbers here. Now, his 3-point shooting was down and his field goal percentage was down, but this guy had a tremendous amount of huge games, especially when his team needed him. How good is this guy? Or was that just a function of him understanding that he had to be the guy because there weren't a whole lot of other big options, although he did get help at times, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart in their roles?
I mean, he's good as advertised. He's tough.
Mhm.
He's determined. He plays. He competes on defense.
Mhm.
Offense speaks for itself. He can
Mhm.
run a team. He's a leader. He's good as advertised. So, if I was to rank him by his position,
That's
he's
where I was going
easily
next. You read my mind. Thank you.
he's easily top 10 for by his position. It's a lot of good point guards though,
Probably
but
maybe
he's easily top
6.
10 and could be considered anywhere between 5 and 10, right? Because I think,
Yeah.
and I'm not counting Luka as a point guard, so I'm thinking Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, used to be Dame Lillard, but maybe his star is dwindling a little bit. But Kyrie, Steph, and Dame Lillard are in the league of their own at the point
Mhm.
guard position, right? And then you got to start thinking about guys like Morant.
SGA.
No, definitely SGA. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
SGA ahead of Dame Lillard. So
Okay.
SGA is 1 for me now. Kyrie Irving is 2, Steph
Okay.
Curry is 3,
Hmm.
and then we can start the conversation for 4 and 5. So, and that might end up being Morant and maybe Jamal Murray and Dame Lillard, the top off the 6. So, all right, so we'll go from 7 to 10. Jalen Brunson is in there from 7 to 10.
Okay, cool. So let's hear a couple of comments here. Let's hear from Coach Tibbs and Jalen Brunson following the loss yesterday. Obviously, I'm sure those guys. I've been in some post-game press conferences, obviously in the reporting capacity, but those are tough things to see. Like, I can't imagine, I mean, you're making a whole lot of money, but even still, as a coach or as a player, to have to sit there and answer those questions after you just took a tough loss, especially a season-ending loss. I can't imagine what it must be like to be on the other side of that. But let's listen to some of what they had to say.
As a coach, you always measure, okay, what does the group have, and are we getting everything out of the group? And the only thing you could ask for is everyone puts forth their best effort. And we got that all year from these guys. What goes along with that is peace of mind and knowing that you did your best. And so that's all you could ask for. And a lot of teams, I think, would have folded. They didn't. Like, we took the hit with Mitch, and then, and you add in Julius and OG, your starting front line, and then Bogey goes out. So that and it was hit after hit, but these guys never folded. They kept fighting. And so that's all you could ask for.
I love the fact of how we fought night in and night out, and I love this group of guys that we have, and just like I said before, our mindset as a group was strong. Some nights when we may have not had what people thought was a team capable of winning, our mindset pushed us over that hump. Did we win the championship? Did we get close? So no, that's my mindset. That's just how it is.
So I love what both of those guys had to say. I guess, Tibbs was, he's going to be continually facing questions about his coaching methodology and, having guys play a lot of minutes and all that. And I also love Jalen Brunson and what he had to say in terms of did we win or whatever. And I think that now it's amazing how LeBron has to work his way into everything, but we're talking NBA, so he's going to pop up here. And the reason why is amazing to me how a lot of the NBA media kind of expects certain responses in certain situations from star players now based on what we've seen from a guy like LeBron for all those years. And I'm going to get your comments on this in a second, but here's another quick thing that Jalen Brunson had to say, which I thought was interesting, and I'll tell you why in a second.
Do I take pride in what I have accomplished?
Yes.
I would say there's pros and cons to how I played. The pros is obviously I played well individually at some points in time during the playoffs, and the cons are that I didn't play well enough to help my team move forward. And so you can say I got hurt in Game 7. I wasn't playing well in Game 7. We had a 2-0 and a 3-2 lead, and so it's hard to look at things individually when you don't help your team.
So you know where I'm going with that commentary. I love the fact that Jalen Brunson, another relatively young player, sat there in front of the media, in front of the microphone, and he owned up to it and took accountability for his part in the loss and what he didn't do. And what are your thoughts on his commentary?
You give him an A+ for that. So when you're the leader of the team, whether you're the coach or the star player, right? And to a certain extent, the co-star as well, right? When you're the coach, the star player, or the co-star, it's no matter what happens, it's always your fault. When they're asking you that question, it's always your fault. That's what you get paid the big bucks for.
Yes.
That's why you get all the high praise when y'all succeed.
That's right.
Because you're supposed to blanket everyone else from all of that, because obviously they're not as good as you. And if they're not as good as you, is a good chance they're either not as mentally tough as you to handle all of that pressure, or they're not putting in the work as much as you are, so they're not as determined as you. So you are the person who's supposed to bear that responsibility of taking all the blame. Now, what you say to them in the locker room and then practicing in the film study is a totally different story. If I need to hold you accountable as a leader, I would do that, but I would never do it in front of the press for the whole world to see, right? So I don't care what the question was. It was Bronson's fault, right? Why did
That's
y'all
right.
lose? It's all on me. But you had 50. Yeah, but I could have had 55. You know what I mean? So that's the mentality of a real leader.
That's right. I love it. So let's look forward to the Pacers and the Celtics, and we don't have to spend too long on that. That game is going to happen tomorrow night. What are your thoughts briefly on Pacers and the Celtics? Do the Pacers have any chance of upsetting the Boston Celtics here?
Yeah, they hit shots, and Boston can go cold sometimes. So, and at the end of the day, it all depends on what angle they want to go with the whistle. I mean, trust me, it's gonna happen. Like they're not gonna let this Western. They're not gonna let it. When the last time you seen a sweep in the conference finals?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you the last time I
Right.
saw that.
Probably the Lakers team, because the Lakers swept all the way until they got to the finals.
15-1 in 2000, I believe, right?
Yeah, they lost game 1 of the NBA finals to Iverson in the 76ers.
Yep.
So they swept all the way through, right? I don't know if I seen that in the conference. I don't know if I seen the sweep in the conference finals, right? So it don't matter how bad the team is, you're not gonna leave that money on the table.
No.
A whole extra game or two.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You know what I'm saying? That's
ad
money.
revenue. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a TV station that look, man, this is a whole game you can get. Millions of viewers, millions of not millions of advertisers, but tons of advertisers being able to advertise to those millions of viewers, ticket sales,
That's right.
merch sales, food sales, parking lot fees. You get all of that, and you only want 4 games of that when you can get 6. Yeah. So yeah, they could do it. They
Fair
could,
enough,
because the NBA is going to help them at least get 1 or 2 games. So if they can pull out 1 on their own, maybe they can get it to game 7, and anything goes in a game 7, because they go swallow the whistle, and
What's the key matchup in that series to you?
It's gonna be whoever tries to slow down Porzingis when he comes back.
I was just thinking that Miles Turner and
7'3"
Porzingis,
yeah, 7'4". I mean, well, you go see Horford get some minutes too, because the Pacers they play pretty good defense as well, and Miles Turner is he's a good shot blocker. He moves his puppies pretty good as well. But he's a wide body who can push around, and we seen in the series, Chet Holmgren in the OKC series, we see him, his slim frame get pushed around by Gafford and even Lively. And Lively's not a wide body, but he's wider than Chet Holmgren. And whenever they wanted to push Holmgren out of the paint off the glass, they was able to do it. And for a guy that's 7'3" like Porzingis, he's older than Chet Holmgren. He's not a rookie, so he's more experienced, and he know how to throw his weight around, but he's still slighter frame. And a guy like Miles Turner, he can box him out pretty good. So I think Al Horford is going to be important. But whatever's going on with the bigs, Al Horford, Miles Turner, Siakam, Porzingis, whatever's going on between them is going to be very key.
So maybe a Siakam Tatum matchup. That's I need Tatum to be more aggressive.
Not even interested. Tatum don't need to be more aggressive. He just need to play winning basketball. I mean, it's like they lost 2 games the whole playoffs. They lost 1 in each series. And we're still calling for Tatum to do something different than what he's doing. He's fine. He has a team with enough help where he doesn't have to go out and get triple doubles like these other stat rats are. Right? He's not a stat rat. Hey, look, I'd rather play lockdown defense and team oriented offense and get the win. He understands that when it's time for him to be a superstar, he knows he's got to cut that switch on. So whenever that time comes, it comes. But if you don't need to, it's almost like escalation of force, right? You learning in rules of engagement when if I don't need to pull the gun out, I go for the baton. If I don't need the baton, I go for the OC spray. right? If I don't need the OC spray, I go for these hands. Whatever you need to apprehend the suspect, that's what I'm gonna use. I might can get you cuffed with just my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Ones and twos, get you down, boom, now I got you, right? I might be able to do it with just verbal instructions. Hey, get on your knees, get on the ground, turn your head away from the sound of my voice. Cross your legs again. You know what I mean? I got to, if that's all I got to do, that's what I'm going to do. Why I'm going to go out here and automatically pull my gun out and give you 2 to the chest and say, get down.
Right. No
that's
need.
overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we good. I'm good with saying someone mature enough and experienced enough to know, look, man, I'm going to use whatever I got to use at the time when I need to use it.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So that's the Eastern Conference. So what we're gonna do now, let's switch over to the West. And I guess that's realistically, that's probably where all the excitement is, right? I guess it would have been more excitement had the Knicks won, but this is special, man. And we had a heck of a series. I guess we had a heck of a series in both semifinals in the West. Obviously, Luka and Kyrie and the Mavs beat OKC, and I think OKC probably just suffered from youth in that one because they matched up very well with the Mavericks and they literally played them down to the last second. And so it's not like they got blown out or anything like that. They really played that series well. But the one that really had my attention was obviously that Minnesota-Denver series. And we saw the T-Wolves upset the Nuggets, even though they were the best defensive team in the league all year. And it's so funny, man. In modern sports, everybody just, decries defense. Like, there's a reason that the adage is defense wins championships. Like, we get it that all these sports for the gambling and all these other reasons have, shifted the rules in favor of the offense, but elite defensive teams can still be very, very dangerous. So here's my thing, right? Even as a journalist, I can honestly say I'm glad the Nuggets lost. And there's a reason for that. The reason why is I think so many people in the sports media were just over their skis on Nikola Jokic. And yes, Nikola Jokic is great. He's a 3-time MVP. He's a champion. He's a finals MVP. He had one of the greatest playoff runs in history last year. I get all that. I'm not taking anything from him. However, I think it was just too much too soon. And here's an example of that. Let's listen to Rob Parker and Chris Broussard from The Odd Couple on Fox Sports Radio and hear some of what they had to say about it. And when I heard this, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Y'all dudes have covered the NBA for like 30 years, and this is what you're talking about. But check it out.
The Joker is playing for a spot in the top 10 in the NBA.
Top 10
players.
Ever?
Yes.
What?
Top 10, and I'm going, just hear me out with this.
Yeah, I'm going to hear you out.
Hear me out.
You know you got to name the other 9.
No, I can't. I don't.
There's
I
like
don't
15 people in everybody's top 10.
I got it. I got it. But I'm talking about when I'm looking at what he was able to accomplish last year, averaging the triple-double, how he annihilated the record books in the postseason. Now, obviously, Chris, a lot has to happen before I'm jumping there, so just follow me.
He has to win the championship.
Win the MVP and the championship, okay? Win the MVP and the championship, same as last year. If he does that, Chris, back-to-back, and he's won 3 of the last 4 MVPs, and again, puts in the postseason to a postseason to remember, it's going to be hard to not look at this guy and think, with supposedly all this talent, all people talk about, all the modern players say that this is the best talent ever assembled, that these guys are the most skilled ever. My God, look at Magic. He couldn't even jump. Look at these guys. They were plumbers.
Neither can Jokic.
They were all this guy. Well, I'm just saying, but they're talking about during that time. And my point is, he's rewriting record books. He's piling up. There's only been 15 players that won multiple MVPs. And for this guy to be on the verge of, Chris, 3 out of 4, no all-star teammate, how in the world could we not look at this guy and put him in the top 10 and think he's not one of the 10 best players we've ever seen play?
I'm going to just let you go ahead from here, and then I'll respond to you.
I mean, they like you said before the clip, they've been in the industry for 20, 30 years. They know how to stir the pot. They know what to throw out there for other small fish to chum on, and that's all they're doing. They've been skillful at throwing something out there that kind of goes to the extreme a little bit just to get the reaction and stuff like that. There's no way they can actually really believe that. But I address it anyway. Personally, I don't like the things that Rob Parker started to list. 3 MVPs, Finals MVP, all the triple double, all the stuff he's listing. Yeah, if you was to get a list of stats and accolades out of all the players in the past 75 years, and just start going down them, you might be able to put him somewhere close to top 15, top 20. It's possible, but I don't do it. I don't do it that way on paper. I don't. Like basketball is a sport that is for our enjoyment to watch. Not for us to watch on paper. So what you see with your eyes have to be more valuable than what's on paper, right? And what's on paper don't always have a direct link to giving you an honest, giving you truth about what your eyes see, right? So I say all that to say this: when I watch basketball, and I've been watching it since I was probably 10, right? So that's more than 30 years, right?
Right.
And I started saying, oh man, I've watched this guy play from start to finish, beginning of his career to end of his career. I know everything about his game on both ends of the floor. I know the climate that he was shaped in. I know the downfalls he had to overcome. I know how he overcame them. I know what he got better at. I know his strengths and weaknesses. I know what teams tried to do against him. I know what newspapers were saying about him when he was playing and how he shut them up. That's the difference between actually living through an era and watching players play, because you got the nuances that you can't go back and know. Even if you can, no one's going to go back and say, let me see what they were saying about MJ in the newspaper in 88 or in 90, right? What was so significant about him hitting those 6 threes on Portland against Clyde Drexler and doing the shoulder? So you're not going to know that they was comparing him to Clyde, and they was telling him that the difference between him and Clyde is that Clyde can shoot, he can't, right? So you don't know why it was so significant for him to come out and be like, all right, this is, y'all said I can't shoot 6 threes first half. Like, you don't know why that's a big deal. You get what I'm saying? So those nuances, you're not going to see that when you look at stats on paper. Right. So when I say who's the best player I ever seen play, and I list 10 of them, Jokic is not near the 10.
Not near.
I've seen far better players than him. No, not even near it.
Not near. I agree.
Not even near. It's players with way less stats and accomplishments than him that are better players than him. Rasheed Wallace is a better player than him. Rasheed Wallace is a better player than Giannis by far. Rasheed Wallace is a better player than Embiid.
I go with that.
These are the best big men that's in the league right now.
That's tough.
Best big men in the league right now can't hold a candle to Rasheed Wallace or Chris Webber.
We'll do that debate another time. We'll do that. Embiid, that's a tough one. But to your point though, and I think this is, so let me address the first thing you said about looking at guys on paper. So for me, when I look at how great a player is, it's the paper part, the stats plays a role. Obviously, the eye test plays a role. Winning plays a role, and then accomplishments. So those 4 things for me make up the totality of how I evaluate you as a player. And then, you have, to your point, the little nuances and the context behind all that stuff. So with that, I don't think Jokic gets there, because for me, the biggest thing is this. Jokic is very special in this era, and I get it. And we say, well, we've never seen anything like him, right? But at 7 feet, yeah, he can handle the ball. But I think I've said this before. If I'm a coach, there's no way I'm not at least sometimes sending a small guard to try and take that ball from him when he puts it on the ground. So at the very least, you make him pick it up and you disrupt him starting the offense. But even still, a bigger part of that is with what Jokic does at 7 feet. He's able to see so well to pass the ball, right? But a big part of that is in the modern NBA, there's not a lot of true centers and there's not a lot of true power forwards, 6'10", 6'11 guys, 6'9", like we saw back in the day. So back in the day, if Jokic is playing and let's say he's trying to pass, you can easily double team him with two bigs, right? And so that takes away a lot of his vision in terms of the passing. So is he going to have the elite passing numbers like he does today? No, not quite the same. Then we talk about the actual big man competition. Competition has to matter. I talk about this all the time. Competition has to matter. So I always go back to, and you know this, Dream is my greatest big man of all time. Some people argue with me, and that's fine. I think it's a legitimate argument. But anyway, Dream is my guy. And Dream was the best in my estimation, and I think most people who would agree he's the best big man in the best big man era of all time. So you got Dream, you got Shaq, you got Zoe, you got Patrick Ewing, you got Dikembe, you got David Robinson. Like, that's an untouchable big man era, and Dream was better than all those guys. And so if you put Jokic there, he's not going to be able to deal with that. And one of the easiest it's hard to compare across eras, but one of the easiest comparisons I make is when he goes up against Embiid, Embiid hands it to him. And you just finished saying that you don't believe Embiid was better than Rasheed Wallace or Chris Webber, and that's fine. So even if that's the case, you got a guy who would be second tier at best in Embiid in that era, and he gives Jokic his lunch when he plays against him. And so I'm like, how can we, like, I get it. We're trying to find new guys to elevate and to lift up, and you can't take away from what Jokic is doing in this era. But we can't be so ridiculous as to say this guy is playing for top 10. Like, come on, man. Really? like Moses Malone has 3 MVP in the NBA championship. Right.
That's ridiculous.
NBA championship as well.
But they're journalists at heart, and they gotta have the conversation.
I'm a journalist at heart too. I mean, I'm not obviously to those guys. But
they play the game. They playing the game. Yeah, like you're a journalist, trained journalist, working journalist, but you still got your eggs in the I want to be truthful and I don't want to say nothing I don't believe. Right. You haven't sold yourself to the machine.
Right.
When the machine hires you, you got to feed it. Mm-hmm. And you can't feed the machine players that don't play no more.
Right.
That doesn't work. Like, that's the machine is like, give me live play. Don't give me a dead sacrifice. Give me a live sacrifice.
That's right.
Right. So you got to invest in what's going on now, because that's going to move the conversation. If you say Jokic is not that good and you still praise a guy like Webber or Rasheed, mm-hmm. how does that help this younger generation who never even seen Rasheed play? These people that was born in 2010, right? Because we're in 2024. So 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds is watching the game now. They don't know about no daggone Rasheed Wallace, and they don't care. They're looking at Jokic right now. I need to hear how good he is, and even though they say the truth every now and then, or even though they'll still hold on to the Michael Jordan thing, mm-hmm. They got to sell themselves to the machine a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, so Minnesota goes ahead and they pull the upset. They knock out the defending champion, who is, I guess, no longer the defending champion. Now we're waiting to see who the new champion is. And on the other side of the bracket, we mentioned Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving. How good do you think this team is, and what type of threat do you think they pose to Minnesota? Because I got Minnesota coming out of the West. I love the two big man thing.
They pose a hell of a threat. Like mm-hmm. I said with the Eastern Conference.
It's
going to be interesting because they're going to make it interesting. Besides that, man, it's hard to ignore that, man. Like, because seriously, I don't even respect. I have zero respect for this playoff, other than the fact that they let them play physical. I respect mm-hmm. and love that a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And seeing Edwards just embrace the spotlight and excel, that's mm-hmm. been good this playoffs. But what's not been good is seeing them manipulate the games, man. And I don't have any respect. They did everything that they could to help Denver not get beaten 5 or 4. Mm-hmm. Like, this series could have been over in 5, 100%. right? They did everything they could to prevent that and left it up to a game 7 for Minnesota to decide. And they did the same thing in the Dallas OKC series. Dallas came out and got smacked game 1. Same thing with the Clippers. And then the referees made an adjustment and was like, hey man, Dallas, we're gonna let y'all just do whatever y'all want. Like if you look at the star players for Dallas and Denver, Jokic and Luka, they got the least amount of fouls called on them. Like, how can 2 bad defenders that we all admit
Great point.
don't defend well are the ones not fouling, but the best defenders are the ones fouling? Lou Dort was getting fouls called on him within the first minute of the game. And Lou Dort is one of the best defenders on the floor and in the league. Lou Dort had 5 fouls every game. If he didn't foul out with 6, he was getting 5 every game, right? Lou Dort was getting fouls. McDaniels is a good defender for Minnesota. He was getting fouls left and right. Karl Anthony Towns, anybody who was guarding Jokic was picking up fouls. Like Gobert fouled out last night. So he was getting 4, 5, or 6 fouls. Same thing with Karl Anthony Towns, 4, 5, or 6 fouls. And McDaniels was trying, he was getting 4, 5, 6 fouls. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, come on, man. You telling me all the best defenders are the ones doing all the fouling, and the worst defenders are the ones who just somehow can play defense without touching nobody.
Right.
Come on, man. Don't insult my intelligence. I see it. Like Jokic does 4 or 5 moving screens a quarter.
Got you.
Luka couldn't get Lou Dort off of him without a forearm. It was one play where he literally extended his forearm, pushed Lou Dort down.
No call.
And then I think no call. And then they sent Luka to the line because I want to say the help came over and swiped and got his arm on the way up. But he literally pushed Lou Dort all the way down. I'm like, come on, bro. And he did that very often. So no, it's hard for me to just talk X's and O's in basketball and what I see when what I'm seeing as far as X's and O's is being overshadowed by the whistle. Right. I want to see a game where the referees, I forget they're on the floor.
Probably not going to happen for the many reasons we discussed. Are you a fan of the way Minnesota plays in terms of doing the Twin Towers 100%. Thing and rebounding and playing defense?
100%.
I like
because
it a lot
because it's throwback and it's sticking a finger in the eye of the trajectory that NBA was going, where they're saying, hey, big guys like Gobert are obsolete in the post game is obsolete, and we want 5-man out, space and pace, drive and kick basketball. And when you play that type of style, it's hard to put a 7-foot on the floor because we just go put him in a high screen and roll, get a switch, and have him have to have a guard or a wing player one-on-one. And then now you got a double, and now I'm into my offense where I can move the ball and find an open 3, right? And then on the other end, everybody else is adopting that same style, 5-man out, and they don't want to go in the post no more. So having 2 7-footers on the floor is a done deal, but not here, which is great. And I like it because Mike Conley's there as a leader, and he played with a team like this with Memphis with Big Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol. And I love it. He knows what that's like. You know what I mean? I 100% love it, man. I can't wait for it to make its way back, and we can kick all the analytic nerds out of the league. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, I'm looking at the WNBA and it looks like watching 2000s basketball, right? It's physical. The stars aren't getting every call. I love it, man. WNBA is a beautiful brand of basketball, yo. They go in the post. Well, I was about playing this Steph Curry offense. It's dope.
Well, I think the reason for that is because they can't rely on athleticism as much, so they have to be able to really execute, run offense, run defense. I used to cover women's basketball when I was at University of North Florida, and I still talk to the coach all the time. He's been on the show a couple times, and that's one of the things I do admire about it. I mean, I think it's by necessity, but it makes for a more pure product. So that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, maybe not, because they can always do exactly what Iowa did. What Iowa did is closer to what they're doing in the NBA. 5-man out basketball, drive and kick, one person responsible for all the assists, and that one person also has the green light to take any 3 she wants. right? Everybody on offense exists just to spread the floor. I want all my 4 players around Caitlin Clark to be able to shoot the 3, at least 3 of them, which they had, right? So they had 3 shooters on the floor and 1 screen setter.
Yep.
Right. And that screen setter is getting her open every chance they get, whether it was on the ball screen or off the ball screen. There's nobody in the paint, nobody in the post. Everybody around the 3-point line, either setting screens or standing there waiting for a catch and shoot. Right. That's what they do in the NBA. So the WNBA could do that if they wanted to.
Right.
They choose not to.
Yeah, but I don't think you don't see that as often in the women's game, and that's something that I've noticed. But back to Western Conference Finals. Let's hear what Kendrick Perkins had to say about Minnesota Timberwolves on First Take here.
When I look at Minnesota, this is what I want to talk about when we talk about last night game. And Shannon, this is what I want you to tell the American people on how hard it is for guys to play in Denver when it comes down to the altitude.
Oh, yeah.
And why I bring that up? Because what we saw yesterday, we saw last night, this team go down 20 points. And throughout the course of the game, when I thought they was about to wear down, they got stronger. And Jokic and Murray was the guys that wore down. And I said, you know what? This team is really like that. They're built like that. On a night when Anthony Edwards shot 6 for 24, they won the basketball game because they stay true to who they are, and that's defensive wolves when they come down to embracing the.
But Perk, what is Dallas built like?
No, but look, this is my thing. Let's look at the journey, right? I'm not knocking Dallas for getting to the Western Conference Finals, okay? But first round, they match up against the Los Angeles Clippers without Kawhi Leonard, right? And you're going against James Harden and PG. We know how they disappear in the postseason, and damn it, they did that. Okay, in the second round, you're going against a young Oklahoma City Thunder, and all season long, Shannon, I heard you say this. Stephen A., I heard you say it. Damn, I even heard Molly say this. The Oklahoma City needed to add depth to their big position. Chet is not enough. And what Dallas did, they exposed that. They can't expose that with the Minnesota Timberwolves because now you have Rudy back there that's going to be able to be roaming free because he don't have the responsibility of worrying about a Jokic. This is why I got the Minnesota Timberwolves going to the NBA Finals and winning the NBA championship. And the last thing I'm going to say, Anthony Edwards is on the verge of having one of the greatest individual runs in NBA history. Okay, if you look at him going through Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, okay, then knocking off the defending champs and the MVP and the best player in the world in Jokic. And now he's facing Luka and Kyrie. And then if he gets to the NBA Finals, which I believe he will, and then match up against the Boston Celtics, because I had them coming out of the East, and you match up with Jason Tatum and that Celtic team that won 60-plus games, and you knock them off, name me a better individual performance as far as a run.
You have to go back to Magic.
So I can answer that question. Name me a better individual performance. Olajuwon in 95. Beat 4 57-win teams and 4 MVPs on the way to the championship. I'll leave it at that before I turn this into an Olajuwon propaganda tour.
Yeah, I mean, but that's their profession. They say it, string things, and then see what the fallout is gonna be, man. So, I try not to pay too much attention to it, and I try not to do it myself and say this is the greatest X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
but I can easily say it was a great run or good run.
Absolutely,
sure. Yeah, it was good. It was great, but this is the greatest. Because if you say on national TV, oh, this is a great run that he's saying, that's not even a huge statement that people need to pay attention to or feel impartial to or agree with. Like, it doesn't do anything for the conversation. But when you say this is the greatest, now it brings the debate. And I just don't play the game. I'm tired of playing that game with them.
Fair enough.
I just sometimes you gotta check out, man. Mentally, you gotta check out and play. I'm not playing this week, man. So
there you go. So interesting. So I was thinking about matchups with this Minnesota and Dallas series, and I'm really excited to see Ant Edwards versus Kyrie Irving. I don't know how much Ant Edwards how much time he's going to spend on Kyrie, because that is going to be a real exercise in conditioning, trying to defend that guy. But I am excited to see that matchup, much like we saw when it came down to it. Ant Edwards said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get with Jamal Murray here, and I'm going to control him. If you're the coach, if you're Minnesota's coach, how much time do you leave Ant Edwards on Kyrie Irving? And do you make a concerted effort possibly to wear Kyrie Irving down by having Ant Edwards continually attack him?
I would have to go back and watch their matchups in the regular season, but right off the bat, I don't believe Anthony Edwards. I don't believe the game plan is for him to be on Kyrie Irving, or to start on Kyrie Irving. Will he guard him in the event of a switch? Yes, he will, but I don't think that's going to be his assignment. I think Luka will be his assignment, but he's a troll. Like Anthony Edwards is a troll. Like in the first round, he just kept praising Kevin Durant and how much he loved him and how it was his favorite player, which is true.
Yeah.
But the reason why he kept saying it publicly is because he knew, I'm going in to try to kill this dude. But I'm doing this because that might take a little bit of edge off of how much he comes at me. Right. And he would rather do that than poke the bear and then have Kevin Durant get highly motivated to try to take his head off, man. So and then against Denver, he did his fair share of trolling as well. So this is just him, listen to everything he said in the media all playoffs, man. It's all set up, man. This dude, he's from Georgia. I got friends from Georgia. They say, look, I get it. I know what he's doing, and I get it too. Right. So mark my words, when that tip off starts, he will not be on Kyrie Irving.
There you go. All right. So before I let you get out of here,
because
Mike
Conley starts, right? Mike Conley starts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike Conley starts. So if the smallest man on the court is Kyrie Irving, and you put Edwards on him, who's Conley going to guard? Edwards? Who's Conley going to guard? Luka? No. Is he going to guard Lively? No. Is he going to guard who else they start? They don't start Tim Hardaway Jr. Who else they start? PJ Washington. Conley go guard him? No. So PJ Washington, Gafford, Luka, Kyrie, and there's one man I'm missing. Who am I missing?
Ooh, Caitlin Clark just limped off the floor.
Helicopter.
Looked like she twisted
Helicopter.
her ankle. Yeah, my bad.
Okay, I'm gonna go check out. Yeah, and Jones, the dunker. All of those guys. Kyrie's the smallest guy on the court. If you're gonna start Conley, Edwards can't be on Kyrie. But if you put Conley on the bench and you start Walker, what's the defender name? Walker. If you start Walker, I keep forgetting. He got that two name that hyphen between two names for his life. Alexander Walker.
There you go.
Yeah, you start Alexander Walker. He's a defender. I would rather put him on Kyrie Irving. So I look, trust me, Edwards would not be guarding Kyrie.
I miss the days of those matchups, but I get it. It is what it is. All right. So finally, before I let you get out of here, man, who you got in this series? You got Minnesota or you got Dallas?
Minnesota's the better team. So I'm gonna pick the team I think can pull it out. But like I said, Dallas got the machine behind him.
For a while about Luka having the machine behind him, true. But it looks like Anthony Edwards has had something to say about that, and that the NBA is starting to fall in love with him as well. So, I don't think they lose either way, whether it's to the finals or Edwards.
It depends on what their goal is. I mean, the reason you put the machine behind a player is because you see a dollar sign agenda to it. You get what I'm saying? Like, and the agenda for Luka is, the European market, and which when I hear Adam Silver talk on interviews, he's more intrigued by grabbing the European market more than anything. The only thing he really talks about when it's talking about strategy, business, and target is always the next TV deal and the European market. So I know that those are going to be, things to look out for. And Edwards ain't part of that.
No.
Anything he. So what you see when you see players that are not the NBA's choice to market, those players are playing uphill. So whatever they achieve has to be looked at like a very big deal because they didn't have the machine behind them to achieve it. And so they're playing uphill with the wind against them. And players like Luka are playing downhill with the wind behind him.
There you go. So I got Minnesota just to put it out there. We'll see if they can climb the hill, as you say. All right, Mel, great stuff as always, man. I appreciate you joining. Before you get out of here, tell the people where they can find you.
Find us on YouTube, Men Down Sports. Find us on Facebook. We got a Facebook page, and we have a Facebook group where we do a lot of interaction, and you're able to post certain things in there to start the conversation. So find us Man Down on Facebook as well.
There we go. All right, brother. Well, I will talk to you and everybody who's watching this, man. If you love some good sports talk, go make sure you like and subscribe to that channel, Man Down Sports. Really good stuff. And I'll be back with you next time. I'll have a couple more episodes out through the remainder of the week. And then, of course, the live show Saturday night at 7. So I'll be back. And I'm out. Peace.
All right.